So I just started streaming. This should be working. This should be live. I don't know. I hope so. Can you mod the show?
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta get to it. There we are.
Yeah, it looks like we're live. Let me test if... Looks like the chat is working. It's not working. No. Or is there a delay?
No. I don't know.
Huh.
Stupid thing took me away. Come
No,
here.
okay, it's working. Alright.
No, I see the chat.
Yeah, it's working for me at least.
I'm there.
Alright, cool.
Yeah, I'm there.
Alright. Sup, Blackstar? How's it going? So, can you guys hear the Prime music I have playing? It should be playing. You should be able to hear it.
I can hear it.
Cool. Is it loud?
Not too loud. It's pretty good.
Cool. Alright. You changed your mind? Were you not gonna come, or... Huh. I think I wrote down the topics. Anyways, this is like a slow, weird, awkward start. So because, one, I took way too long to finish Metroid Prime. I died 5 times. It took me 5 times to beat Ridley. It took me 3 times to beat Metroid Prime. And both those fights take a really, really long time. But I did it with help from my viewers, including Cycle. He gave me lots of tips. Shout out to you. I think he's already going to sleep. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. I love Metroid Prime. It's one of my favorite games ever. But playing in hyper mode in the Wii version while streaming and paying attention to the chat is pretty hard. So, but
yeah,
I took a little while, but I did beat it and 100%ed it. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Nice. Anytime you have to play and pay attention to the chat, it makes it 10 times harder.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I don't know. I think a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, of course, there's some people who just don't pay attention to the chat. But, you know, I want to communicate. I want that connection going and flowing. Hey, man. Anyways, Blackstar, it's all right, you know. Whatever works for you. If you just want to talk in the chat, that's good. Or watch. It's cool. So, we have a few different things to talk about here on Nintendo Super Podcast. If there are any new viewers that come this time around. So, like I said, the stream took me too long, but I also... Monolith Gaming couldn't come today, and IDO Sean couldn't come either. He had to, do family stuff like last minute. So, little bit confuzzled, hazed, messed up, not entirely concentrated. But it doesn't matter because today should be pretty simple. I think it'll be fine. So, I guess the agenda. We're gonna talk a little bit about the Breath of the Wild DLC. I just got it yesterday. I started playing a little bit, and it was really cool. We'll get into that, and then we're going to talk about the SNES Classic and what we think on that, and then we'll kind of let that lead into our favorite retro games. Anything like basically before the year 2000. Actually, the year 2000 I guess counts because there's some N64 games, but N64, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, NES, Atari, things like that. So that's what we're going to be talking about, just our favorite games. This is probably going to be a short show, like I said, for all the things I mentioned beforehand. But it'll be fine. Short shows are good. So, first off, let's just, I guess, talk about the Breath of the Wild DLC. Brandon, I think you told me that you have not gotten it yet.
No,
so
I want to get it. I am going to get it soon.
Yeah, I played it, and I'm really excited to play it in Master Mode with all the new armor, some of the new little additions to the gameplay. And I'm going to play it in Japanese as well. So it'll be the first time me experiencing the game in Japanese, which, from what I hear, are the better voice actors. And some translations might be slightly different. I'm not sure. Probably not. But, all of that together will make it feel pretty fresh to me. And I'm really excited about that. And I can't wait to just give it all the world. All the DLC plus the Japanese voiceovers. I think it'll make it feel pretty fresh to me. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think it'll be really cool. Actually, Master Mode has... I can't wait to try it out. But I did start the Sword Trial Challenge in my normal playthrough of it, and it was interesting to say the least. It's a lot more than I think some people are giving it credit for. yes, it is basically like the same sort of like, you know, Cave of Trials or Dungeon Ordeals that we've seen in Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, but it's taking it to a whole other level. Like, well, one, Breath of the Wild in and of itself, I feel like there's more to it in terms of combat. But this time around, you know, yeah, you have to take off your, you have no armor, no clothes, kind of like Eventide Island, so you have to build yourself up as you go through it. True. But all the world, it's not just you're in the same chamber or rocky hole like it is in Wind Waker or Twilight Princess. The environments change each time, and the challenge is a little different each time, and you have to kind of be really strategic about how you go about doing what you need to do in the environment, because you don't have any equipment, you don't have any armor, and it changes a lot. You have to think yourself, you have to be critical. Kind of like the way the whole game is, but it does put you in the lot more interesting situations, you know? So,
yeah,
it's different. And then there's these in-between phases that I think are really, really cool. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it's a lot more than what we've gotten in other games. It looks awesome. It's like literally new areas that look really, really cool, and that in and of itself almost makes this DLC patch worth it. But we're also getting a whole bunch of armor. You get the Heroes Path mode, which is actually really interesting. It gives you a really good perspective on how you move around. Like, I know people already know about this, but when you have it in your hands and you're looking at it, and, you know, you can kind of just, like, you have some maneuverability with it. You can change the speed, and you see when you die repeatedly. Like, so I did it. I scaled all the way back to the Great Plateau. For whatever reason, I put in 215 hours into the game, but a lot of times I guess I've just kind of been standing there and just leave it and I go eat lunch or something. But it was still able, it says 200 hours it'll go back to, but for whatever reason, it was able to go back to the very beginning for me. And when I got all the way to the beginning, I just died, like, apparently like 20-30 times in the Great Plateau. It's kind of funny. I don't know what the hell I was doing, but it's just like it plays every time you die. It makes a sound of Link falling down. So whenever I go back to the beginning of my hero's path, I just hear Link screaming repeatedly every time. It's
hilarious.
Yeah, it's super weird, but in a good way. And what makes it more interesting is that, like, I was able to take my Switch around because it is portable, and I have, like, you know, this map screen that's just kind of interactive. And it's like, hey, people, look at my Zelda playthrough. So, you know, because the Switch is portable, it adds this kind of other aspect to it where you can kind of share it with people. It's like, hey, look what's going on here with my game. Like, it's kind of like this other social aspect to it that you only get on the Switch, obviously. So it's pretty cool. Of course, you know, if you have a Wii U version, if you have the gamepad, if anyone who's in the living room, assuming your gamepad's battery is not dead like mine, then you can kind of take it around and share it with people within your household. True. So it still has that feature, just not as expanded like it is on the Switch. But yeah, I actually am pretty excited about the Breath of the Wild DLC. I can't wait to try it out, and it's more than some people are giving it credit for. So, and that's only half it. We're getting the story DLC later on, and we'll see just how major that is in the future. So, yeah. I mean, do you have any brief thoughts on it? I know you don't have the DLC yourself, but what it sounds, what you think.
I have some thoughts.
Sure, go.
Yeah, I've seen people play it at E3, and I definitely think it's a huge step up for especially the Trial of the Sword from like the Cave of Trials and Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
I never played the Cave of Trials and Twilight Princess. I played it once. I was like, this is the most boring crap I've ever played. It was just lame. It wasn't even as good as the one Wind Waker. At least the one Wind Waker is even, like, it was okay. But this one looks way better. It's got environments that you have to, like, actually traverse. It's not just fighting, but it's actually getting around the environments and doing things that you wouldn't really do typically in Zelda. Like, I saw one room it's mostly open, and you're, like, flying around going to defeat all the enemies before you can leave. That's, like, way better, because before it was just, you know, you're in a room, you fight the enemies, you're done. This one's got so much more stuff to do and ways to kill enemies and interact, which is
more complex.
Kind of been Zelda's motto. It's been like its thing, and it's doing it again in Trial of the Sword, which is really, really cool. I haven't played for myself, but I've seen it, and it's good from what I've seen.
Right. Every different level is literally a different level. It's not just a repeat with different enemies. It's a different level. And the terrain is a little different, and you have to think about your strategy a little differently. You have obviously options. It's the whole Breath of the Wild style, right? But every level is kind of catered to that style, rather than just putting you in an arena and throwing enemies at you and just hack and slash. No, it's a lot more sophisticated than that, and it's They're like I said,
and as Mudkip just pointed out, you start out with no weapons and
you're
like
naked.
no
Butt
benefits
naked,
and stuff.
not
no
literally
armor.
butt naked. You have trousers on, but you know, yeah.
Yeah, so that adds a whole nother element, which is something I loved about Eventide Island. And I'm really glad they're doing that again because I love Eventide Island. So I think that just adds a whole nother element as well. Also, the what is it? Where you were talking about tracking where you've been around the world. What's that? I forget what that's called exactly.
Hero's Path.
Yeah, the Hero's Path. That's gonna be super useful because there's some shrines I'm just like I have no idea what these could be. I feel like I've been everywhere, but obviously I haven't. So going around, seeing where I've been, and helping me track those down, seeing where I've missed is going to be a huge help. So I'm really excited to use that.
I thought I was gonna show you guys, but I'm in Hyrule Castle. It won't work out. So, anyways, I guess of course, a lot of us are excited about the Zelda DLC, and we'll talk more about that in the future as we play through it more. But let's move on to the SNES Classic that was announced earlier this week. I still have my Amazon notifications ready. I still haven't got anything. I know some people have pre-ordered it already. I hope I can pre-order it somehow, but I don't know how that's going to happen. I hope it works out. I really don't know. I just don't. But I'm really excited about it. I think it's really cool what they're doing with it. It does look like they've taken some notes from the NES Classic, and they've improved upon things. The cords are a little longer. They're still short, but they're still a little longer. And the game selection, I think, is really, 5 feet. It's really strong. The game selection is really, really strong. And it comes with 2 controllers this time around, so they're facilitating that's a lot of the multiplayer games that we're seeing in a lot of the SNES games, like Mario Kart, Street Fighter. It's really cool. What's that big RPG game that's coming? It's not coming. Secret of Mana. So they are facilitating that multiplayer aspect to the SNES Classic. And a lot of these games I haven't played before. It's kind of crazy, but I think it's really special what they're doing with this, and I'm really excited because I feel like I'm going to be playing new games, even though they're not new. A lot of them are old, except for one. One is new, even though it's old, and that's Star Fox 2. So there's actually a lot to talk about here, but Brandon, how about you give your quick initial reactions on it while I pull up a list of the games so we can talk about each one.
Yeah, well, my reactions were weird because I've been gone all week and I just got back. So I got back Saturday and I was just looking through and I was just like,
no contact with the internet at all.
The thing we've all been waiting for. The thing we all got completely no surprise.
I was surprised.
Everybody knew it was coming.
I didn't.
You were surprised? I was not. There's like
it's actually
so many leaks and rumors about it.
It's really funny for me though, because
here it is.
Now hear me out. So my friend Alex, I don't know if he's watching right now, but he texted me that morning. I was passed out, so I probably was more like 11 o'clock or something. I was up really late, maybe noon, and he was texting me. He's like, "So what do you think of the Super NES?" Right? And I was like, "Oh, you mean the rumored SNES Classic?" And then I went on this rant, like 12 texts on oh, blah blah blah. I don't know. I think the NES Classic was just kind of a collector's edition. Nintendo didn't, they didn't really expect it to do so well. I mean, with Virtual Console coming and the game selection coming for the Nintendo Online services and all the games that are coming out this year and the Switch just launching and still not having the Virtual Console ready, blah, 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 this, that, and that. I just don't think it's coming this year. Heck, it may not even come next year. And then I send all those texts and I go on Twitter and I'm just like, oh, well, I seemed really dumb now. And it was there. Gosh. And obviously, I was just like, okay, yeah, completely wrong and dumb. I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. But, well, of course, Nintendo's unpredictable. You can't really use logic all the time with them. But when I saw it, I was super excited for it. I didn't know I wanted this. Yeah. But I saw the game selection, and I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. I can't believe this is happening. It just looks so amazing. And the game selection's incredible. I'm trying to pull up the list right now, actually, but I can't find it on Nintendo.com. Go figure. This should be pretty easy to find. But, what do you...
I think I have an email of it. I can go try to pull it.
It should be coming up. Just...
Come here. Nope, wrong button.
Why is Nintendo.com so hard to navigate?
I don't know. I'm using their promotional email. And boom, I'm on their site. I have all the games in front of you if you want me to listen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Alright, so there's 21 classic Super NES games, of course. So it's Super Mario World, Super Mario Kart, Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, F-Zero, Super Metroid, the never before released Star Fox 2, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Super Punch Out, Super Castlevania 4, Donkey Kong Country, Mega Man X, Kirby Superstar, Final Fantasy 3, Kirby's Dream Course, Star Fox, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, Contra 3, Secret of Mana, Earthbound, and Super Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yeah.
That's all 21.
It's an amazing lineup, and a lot of those games I haven't played
That's
before.
really good.
I mean, I've played A Link to the Past, I've played Super Mario World. I have never beaten Super Mario World, though. I have beaten A Link to the Past, I've 100% it, I've 100% Super Metroid. I've played Earthbound, but I haven't beaten Earthbound. And then a lot of those other games I've played Mario Kart, I've played F-Zero, but so those are pretty much the game. But I've never really experienced Mario Kart that much. But pretty much all the other games, I don't think I've played. Final Fantasy 3, which is 6 in some regions. Secret of Mana, Castlevania, Ghosts and Ghouls. Street Fighter, yeah, of course I've played that. Who hasn't, right? But there's just so many good games on there. And if I get an opportunity to fully play Earthbound again on the SNES Classic, which is going to be running a lot better. Like, if you've seen the emulation for the NES Classic, it emulates games way better than the Virtual Console. And I'm excited to do that with something that feels like a Super Nintendo controller. It's just really exciting. And I'm a big fan of Castlevania, and I would love to go back and play the Castlevania game on Super Nintendo. It's going to be really good. And also Final Fantasy 3 and Secret of Mana. There's a lot of really good RPGs right there that are going to be really, really fun. And then, of course, we got Star Fox and then Star Fox 2. They are bringing back a game that never released. And that's so amazing. Yeah, exactly. And we're going to be able to play both of them. And I think there's another Yoshi game that was running on the Super FX chip, was never released since the Super Nintendo. So that's a whole other game I haven't gotten to play. And I think they even have a Mario and Luigi RPG. I don't remember the exact name, but Mario RPG, that's also coming.
There's Super Mario RPG. Yeah,
Super Mario RPG. That's also an amazing RPG right there. That's a lot of RPG gameplay. It's pretty crazy. So that, I just think the lineup is impressive, by a long shot. It's just really good. So
there's actually a lot of these I haven't played, because I grew up with the N64, and I haven't really played that many classic games. So, I've never played Super Mario.
You're basically in the same boat as me.
World.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never played Link to the Past, never played F-Zero, never played Super Metroid. I've played Street Fighter a little bit. I've never played Punch-Out, Castlevania, Donkey Kong Country. I've only played the newer ones. Never played Mega Man X. Never played Kirby. Never played Final Fantasy. Never played Kirby's Dream Course. Never played Star Fox. Pretty much every single one of these games, minus a couple, I've never played through to completion. I might have played a little bit of them, but I've never played.
I finally got the list up. Let me tell you the games I haven't played.
Nice.
Okay, so I'll just go through the list. Super Mario What? I've played it, but I haven't beaten it. So that's the whole game I can play right there. Mario Kart, I've played it, but I haven't beaten it. Link to the Past, I've beaten it, but I still have it there to try out. F-Zero, I've played a lot of it, but I haven't beaten it entirely, so that's not to experience. Super Metroid, I beat it entirely. But then we have Street Fighter 2, which I guess is still fun to play with friends, right? So that's still a good game to have for multiplayer, which we get two controllers, which is cool. Punch-Out! I've never played the original Punch-Out, and that could be really, really awesome to play. Then we have Castlevania 3, which I'm super hyped for. Castlevania, the Castlevania games on the DS were some of my favorite 2D games ever. They're really awesome. And to be able to play, I guess, one of the first ones, but, it still pretty much matches up to the DS versions because it's on the Super Nintendo. I'm really excited to try that out. And then Donkey Kong Country. That's a classic game that I have not played to its entirety. So I am looking forward to that. Mega Man X. I know there's tons of huge Mega Man fans, and that's an amazing Mega Man game right there. And that's another game I haven't gotten to play. Kirby Superstar, same. Final Fantasy 3, same. Kirby's Dream Course, same. Star Fox, same. Yoshi's Island, same. I think it's a Super FX game, by the way. Super Mario RPG, I haven't played it. Contra 3, haven't played it, and I like the Contra series. Secret of Mana, haven't played it. That's another amazing game right there. Earthbound, I've played it, but I haven't beaten it, and I want to experience that game fully, and that's going to be amazing on the Super Nintendo. And then Super Ghosts and Ghouls, yeah, I've never played that either, but I've heard it's an amazing game. That's That's a lot of games that I haven't really experienced. And I didn't even bring up Star Fox 2, which is an entirely new game.
Right.
So
nobody's experienced.
Right, exactly. So I mean, some people have emulated like a early version of it was leaked on the internet, but no one's played the final retail version, right? And we're gonna get to experience that.
That's a good point. Mike just brought up Chrono Trigger.
Right, I was gonna get to that. That is the one game that I've heard about so many times that I haven't played, that I was really looking forward to play on the Super Nintendo Classic, because it's considered by many to be the greatest game of all time. It's like up there in most people's top 5, top 10 lists. So, when if based off what I've heard about reception, critical reception, sales, all that good stuff, everything combining all the details together, if I had to tell you maybe the 5 best games coming from the Super Nintendo, Chrono Trigger is easily in that top 5 list. It could be the number 1 list for a lot of people, or number 2. Of course, Super Metroid, Super Mario World, Link to the Past are in that conversation as well, along with a few others. But it's an amazing game that is not on the list. And it's a little weird. I've heard some speculation, some talk about it. But you have to realize that a lot of these games are not licensed by Nintendo. So to get them on, that they have to communicate with other companies. Now, of course, Chrono Trigger is from Square, and Nintendo got some pretty big games from them, like Final Fantasy, Secret of Mana, and Super Mario RPG. But Chrono Trigger is arguably the biggest game. So some people have speculated, we don't know for sure, this is just speculation and not on my part, that a Chrono Trigger remake of sorts may be in the works.
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, and that would be
amazing. And I saw a playthrough of Chrono Trigger, and that game was absolutely incredible. It was pretty mind-blowing.
And the art style,
especially
to me,
for the time,
reminds me a lot of I think it's the same artist from Dragon Ball. I think it is Akira Toriyama.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. 7.8 out of 10. Too much RPGs. I don't know. I mean, I know you're joking, but that's
some RPGs, bro.
But the RPGs on the Super Nintendo are some of the best, and it seems like a really an amazing set of games. So, until we play, I guess there's not much else to say about that in particular. Do you have anything you want to say about the Super Nintendo before we get into it? Before we get into our next topic, I guess.
Better not be shortages, please, Nintendo. Gosh dang, everybody in the world wants one of these.
Supply shortages. Actually, that's a lot to talk about right there. I don't know. They said there's gonna be more, but I don't know. I still haven't even gotten to pre-order it. I've been on Amazon notifications. Haven't gotten any emails. Let's check right now. Do I have any interesting Amazon emails right now? Actually, I don't think I even have enough money to get some bills right now. Let's wait till I get paid.
Yeah, I don't have enough money either.
But they're gonna. The thing is, with the Super NES Classic, they're gonna be releasing it throughout the year. So even if you don't get it on the initial shipment, you still have an opportunity to get it. But I would like to have it at launch. Yeah. And no, I don't have any notifications from Amazon. Yeah. I've been paying attention to that.
It's coming out in September, which is I found odd.
Right, yeah, it's coming really soon. Really soon. Yeah, I got nothing from Amazon.
I guess maybe to help with stock, because it would sell more in the wintertime, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they just want it out earlier so they can get stock over a bigger amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Turkey Flap apparently thinks that I'm talking to myself. No, What About Nintendo is here as well.
Nope.
He's faceless today, but he's here.
You can't see me, I'm a ghost.
This is a two-way discussion. If you look at the graphics, I think it should be suggestive of that on the show. So, yeah. But if you think it's not clear, let me know. I'll try to fix it for next time. But yeah, so I really hope I can get it before. I just want to be able to pre-order it. I'm waiting for the alert. I'm not even gotten it yet. So I don't know. I have to check my local GameStop, I guess. But if pre-orders went up, I'm sure they're gone already from there. But I guess it's worth checking out. Maybe they haven't opened up yet. Some places have, some places haven't. So it's really weird. I don't know. Yeah, have you been looking for pre-orders yourself, or you just kind of assume that you're not going to get it yet?
No, I haven't been looking for pre-orders down of money. But as soon as I have enough money, dang, I'm going to be looking all over the place for that thing. Need to change my donation goal to that. I want
Yeah,
this
that
thing
might
so
work.
bad. I don't want to miss it like I missed the NES Classic. I was so sad.
Yeah. Well, I
This
mean,
one's $80
I
though, but it
wasn't
includes two
really that
controllers,
excited
so I'm
about the
fine with
NES
that.
Classic because a lot of those games
I
that I
just
cared
wanted to
about I already
play.
played.
Yeah,
But the
I
Super
haven't. Well, the
Nintendo
thing is,
one,
for me,
what?
I haven't played. I didn't get a lot of like virtual console games, so most of them were new for me. It was only
Yeah.
$60, and so I thought that was pretty cool. I kind of just wanted it for a collector's thing
Mm-hmm.
and to play the game.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
No, I
and the
get it.
emulation is way better than virtual console as well.
Right, right. But
So,
I've played a lot of the NES games, so to me, it just didn't seem as interesting. Right, but with the Super Nintendo, not only do I love the Super Nintendo games way more than the NES games, but I haven't played as many of them.
yeah,
So for me, it's way more exciting. Of course, it also comes with two controllers,
Mhm.
and it just seems a lot more available. So I'm more excited about it. But we'll see what happens. Everyone pay attention to, you know, when pre-orders go up, get on the alert systems, be prepared for that, because even though Nintendo said there's going to be more stock than the NES Classic, I still suspect, as many others do, that it will still be pretty challenging to get. So without further ado, we've been talking about old games and how we're excited are for them, but we have something we want to talk about in particular, and that's like our favorite retro games. So, Brandon, I believe you came up with a list beforehand. Do you want to go over game by game, I guess, your top 5 retro games? And for the record, for this podcast, what we decided for what would be retro games is basically anything that came out. So it could be for any system, but since we're mostly Nintendo fans, it's probably mostly games on Nintendo stuff. But it doesn't have to be. Basically, anything that came out on the N64 or beforehand. So I think that would even exclude the Dreamcast. Though, if you want to bring up any Dreamcast games, you can bring it up. Although, personally, since I didn't have a Dreamcast, I won't be bringing it up.
I won't either.
But I would consider that retro. But so basically N64 and beforehand. So, Brandon, why don't you get into it if you're ready?
You want to do like my number 1, then your number 1, and then my number 2, and then your number 2? You want to like switch off, or me do all 5 at once?
You can talk about the first one, and then I'll let you know.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna tell you right now. I grew up with N64. My N64 is like my most played console. So I kind of just went by what I've played the most, and so they're all N64 games. And they're not in really any particular order except the order that I've played the most. And the game I played the most on the N64 was actually Super Smash Bros. 64, and I loved that game to death. I played it all the time. I had to have put thousands and thousands of hours into it with my brothers. We played that game nonstop. We sucked at it. We all did. We all sucked at it. And we didn't know a thing about playing it, but we all tried our best because we all played locally. So we didn't have a clue that we sucked, but we all had fun.
Right.
I just loved that game. It's amazing.
What was your favorite part about it?
Oh, I don't know. We mostly just played just multiplayer. Like the single player was really good, but mostly we just played multiplayer all the time. And I just like the stages in that one. I love the stages in the N64 one. I wish they'd bring more of them back.
Yeah.
I liked how they did for some of them for Smash Bros. 4, which was really cool. But
Yeah.
I think the stage selection, even though it's smaller,
Right.
I had some of the best stages in the entire series, in my opinion.
Did
Which
you
might have just
unlock-
been because I played it most, and I'm a little biased. But it's amazing.
Did you actually get all the unlockables in the original Smash?
Yes, I did. I did.
It was kind of interesting because it took me a really long time to eventually get all of the characters in the original
Took me
Smash
forever.
Brothers. But yeah,
Took me forever.
it was really special to me. I really did enjoy the original Smash Brothers. It has like a very special feel. A lot of N64 games do. There's just a certain magic about them that I think it just feels different. And I know a lot of that is nostalgia, but when it came out at the time, I guess it was easier to let your imagination roam free. So you kind of imagine like the entire Smash Brothers world, and that concept of all these of your favorite Nintendo characters being dolls in this world where they're being controlled by the Master Hand and having to fight them. It was all really cool. So, and of course, Smash Brothers, that was the beginning of one of the most popular franchises that are today, and people were so obsessed with Smash 4, Melee for the most part. And there's a huge community for Smash Bros. I know tons of people who make a living just within the Smash community. That's how crazy that is. So it's really awesome. But that game is not on my top 5 because mainly I'm going to be focusing... I don't know what I'm focusing on. I'm just going to talk about 5 games in general that I think are really special I don't have a top 5. Sorry, I wasn't ready. But here's one game I'm going to talk about, and that is Kid Icarus on the NES. So that game I didn't play until it came out on Virtual Console for the Wii. And it was one of the first Virtual Console games I got. In fact, it may have been the first one. And that game was crazy. It was one of the first games I played that was like way before my time. And it was so hard, so challenging. It was painful. It took me hours just to get past the first level. But it was just so fun because, like, you know, this verticality was kind of like, you know, a combination of like Metroid and Mario, right? But it was more vertical.
Yeah.
And you can fly a little bit and you get your arrows. So it's more of like a ranged effect. And it was awesome. And, you know, I was always wondering, you know, they should have an actual... Because, of course, around the time that came off Virtual Console, Brawl came out and they reintroduced Pit from Kid Icarus into the world. And then eventually it led to Kid Icarus Uprising on a 3DS. But I'm still waiting for them to fully reinvigorate that franchise and create a home console Kid Icarus. Hopefully you'll see it on the Switch. I think that'd be really awesome. And that series has so much potential. But anyways, as a retro game, the original Kid Icarus, I love a lot. I think it's really, really good. And it's an amazing, underused Nintendo franchise that we should see more of.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Yeah. Next on your list.
Alright, my number 2 is Ocarina of Time. I played that game so much. Actually, when I was little, I never beat that game. If you could believe it, I played it so much and I never beat it. As a young kid, I just found it too hard for some reason. Because when I was young, I sucked at video games. So,
right.
But I always played that game all the time. Right. And I feel like that game has an atmosphere that Zelda has never replicated before.
I'm sorry.
Never.
I was actually changing my Twitch title, but what was the game you were talking about? I'm sorry.
Ocarina of Time.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because I realized people are on my Twitch chat, which I didn't expect. So, but go on with talking about Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, that game just has with the music and the atmosphere and something about it. It had a certain feeling to it that I can't quite describe, but it just felt different than all the other Zelda games. And I don't think they've ever replicated it before. I don't think they've ever replicated the magic of Ocarina of Time. I can still go back to that game, whether it be the original version or the 3DS version, and just feel like it's just a whole new Zelda game. Like it's completely different than the other ones. So that one's always been one of my favorites. It's never been my favorite Zelda game. Wind Waker kind of took that spot, but I feel like it has one of the best atmospheres of any game of all time. Okay. And so I just kind of wish they would replicate it someday, but I'm not sure if it's even possible. The game is just so amazing.
Well,
it's like perfect almost.
I definitely have some thoughts on that. So first off, Ocarina of Time is my favorite game of all time. It was my first Zelda game. I got that game, I think, pretty much around the time it came out. I was turning 10 years old. I might give or take a year. I have to check the exact timing of it. But I got it around the time I was turning 10 years old. And that game was incredible. And I felt like Link, because I think Link was supposedly around 10 years old as well. And it was an amazing, mystical, mysterious adventure. And there's it comes as no surprise to me that game is considered amongst most circles to be one of, if not the best game of all time. And in terms of critical acclaim, it is by most metrics the best game of all time. Of course, when it came out, there was a lot less journalism around at the time. There's a lot less media reviewing the game, so its high overall average scores are based off a smaller sampler size compared to Breath of the Wild. But Breath of the Wild, I think, you know, it's if there's gonna be a Zelda game to maybe beat Ocarina of Time overall in terms of like everyone loving that game, Breath of the Wild is doing a pretty good job. But we'll see what happens. You don't really know until time passes. But I definitely think it's a great game to bring up as a retro game. It's an amazing game, and it is my personal favorite game of all time. But I'm gonna talk about another game that I really like that I am not even sure which one. I can't say. You know what? I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna talk about F-Zero X. So the thing is, for me, I'm not even saying my top 5 because I can't really put it into a top 5. But this is just a retro game that I think is really interesting. So F-Zero X coming out on the N64 was weird because it kind of, if you go back to it now, you're just like, okay, that game's like weird. Like it just doesn't compare to F-Zero GX. A lot of people think it just, but like its style is just so interesting. It has like heavy metal music playing, and when you race through the world, they just seem they're vast. Of course, they're simplistic, but you're going through these worlds at high speeds with heavy metal playing, and just like super intense. Like that game was just so intense, so fast, and you could destroy other vehicles, and it just at the time it was just felt like this incredibly hardcore racing experience that I just, of course, you know, it was just amazing, especially for the time, like what they were able to accomplish there. I thought it was really cool, and it just at a young age, feeling that sense of intensity and hardcoreness was just awesome, and that made me fall in love with the F-Zero franchise. And then GX, which is not a retro game by the metrics we're using for this discussion, is my favorite racing game of all time, and I can't wait until they create a new F-Zero. I don't know how they're going to measure up to F-Zero GX. But, I mean, I love the F-Zero franchise, and I love hardcore racing games. They're just super special. So
nice. Yeah. I've actually never played F-Zero. It's one of the few games I feel like...
Maybe on...
Yeah, I know. I've always wanted to go back and play it. I just never had the chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If they come to a console and they come out with F-Zero GX, I'll definitely pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they come out with N64 and they come out with F-Zero X. I think they had that on the Wii U.
Yeah.
I don't remember if they had on the Wii U, but I didn't get it, unfortunately. But my next one is Mario Kart 64. I know a lot of people like hate on Mario Kart 64 nowadays. They're like, "Oh man, it sucks now. If you go back and play, it's like the worst Mario Kart ever." Like, yeah, I know.
It's a game that's played in many college environments. Like, you know, right. When I went to Penn State, I was there from 2010, 2014. That Mario Kart 64 was like almost in every like little party or getty. Mm-hmm. Like people would, if you've ever heard of Mario Kart, or as I like to call it, Cario Mart, kids. Well, when I say kids, I mean people, you know, who are starting to drink alcohol. They, you know, it's just like drink a beer or some sort of alcohol as fast as you can before you can finish a lap, and you just go, and yeah, you get drunk. But it's just kind of crazy how Mario Kart, along with Smash Brothers, have had such a life like way later down the line. So tons of people have played those old games, and I like Mario Kart 64 as a retro game. I think, yeah, when you play it doesn't feel like it's aged very well, but and that's how I feel for a lot of 64 games. I just don't think they age very well. But it was an amazing game for the time, I felt like. And I mean, it was, you know, whenever you talk about a new franchise in the 3D era, it's always a big jump from its predecessor. So it's really cool. Yeah. I think it's a good game to have on your list, especially since so many people still play it today. So
yeah, I just think the levels, like they've done like redone versions of some of the N64 levels, but I never felt they were as good as the original versions. Like I always thought the original versions were better or more fun. I don't know if that's just nostalgia speaking, but I always loved the original version of the stages. I remember Toad's Turnpike, I think it is, one with all the cars. I remember just turning around and just dodging all the cars. I don't know. We would always do stupid stuff because we were like really low, so we would always just turn around, like dodge the cars and stuff. I just liked how when you like jumped, it had all the little like little letters that popped up. That was always fun. And I remember there was one train stage that they never brought back. I don't think they ever brought it back that I know of. And it just had a train, and it'd go around the tunnel, and you could follow the train in the tunnel, and we would always like race the train. And we literally, we were stupid kids. I don't know why we did this. But we literally, for hours on end, would run around this train and just race it for hours.
I would do that
I don't know
too.
what we were doing.
I did that too. No, I would do it all the time.
We just raced around this one train, and we were just like, this is the most fun thing ever. But I always loved that, and I always wanted to do it again. I don't know why.
No, I did
and then the battle mode was really good in that game. I loved the battle mode in Mario 64. I thought that
Mario
was
64
like
battle
really,
mode
really
is my favorite battle mode. I think it's really good. Yeah. The environments were not too large for the most part, especially my favorite was on the skyscraper. Do you remember the skyscraper? You're on top of a round.
Gosh.
Well, I mean, you know, I don't remember the name of it, but it was
I think I do.
It was nighttime. You're on top of a building. There's a hole in the middle.
Yes, I remember this.
I don't remember the name of it, but I wish they would remake that stage for Mario Kart 8. Maybe there'll be DLC again, but I don't think there will be. But I actually really like the remake in Mario Kart 8 for Toad's Turnpike. I think it's really cool. I love
Yeah, I
seeing
think it was
all the
good.
remakes on the Mario Kart. Mario
You can't
Kart 8. They
turn
all look really good.
around. They don't let you. Stupid
They
Lakitu
they
picks
don't
you up and
really.
turns you
That is
back.
the thing though. There is more control you see in Mario Kart 8 over where you can go. In Mario Kart 64, you had a lot of freedom. I felt like you can go pretty far off the
Yeah.
track, and that was one of my favorite things about Mario Kart
And
64.
and when you ended the cups, you got to go to Peach's castle,
Yeah, and if you
and
got
you got
fourth place, you'd be the sucker that's like right behind the
yeah,
hills.
it was the best. And then it's
For
just
real.
like Mario Kart is just like, here's the trophy. Screw you.
Mm-hmm.
Just like dang it. I wanted my cool going up to Peach's castle moment. That was always the best.
So my next game that I'm gonna talk about, like I said this multiple times, but these 5 games I'm talking about aren't necessarily my top 5 because I couldn't come up with a top 5, but they're amongst my I really love them. And this one is Earthbound, and I haven't beaten that game. I only played that game a few years ago, but I played through just half of it. And the thing is, I wasn't playing on my own system. I was visiting a friend. I was staying there, and I just wasn't able to finish it, and I wasn't sure how I should buy it. But now I'm going to play through it on the SNES Classic. But what I played, it was just so interesting because, like, I heard good things about Earthbound. I always heard good things about it, and I always wondered who Ness was, from the Smash Brothers. And, like,
Yeah, me too.
if no one's tried out Earthbound, it's really special because you go around, especially when you consider it came out, I think, in 90, like, early 91? Am I getting it wrong? No, that's when the Super Nintendo came out. Might have been, I have to double check. But sometime in the Super Nintendo era, early 90s, obviously. But when that game came out, like, it was pretty special because you explore this world, and there's so many different houses and characters to talk to, and all the characters are really, like, awkward and interesting. And there's so much personality. It's all really weird. The story's really weird. It's about aliens and psychic powers and possessing people. Then you see zombies and golems and bears and all these different environments. They all look so different. And there's so many different weird characters, and you have to like figure out what's going on in each town and understand what's going on. There's like a mystery. You have to kind of like figure it out, discover it, and then meanwhile the entire time you're fighting and growing your telekinetic powers with your friends. And it's just a very unique RPG that's handled in a completely different ways. It's not like an RPG like with swords and magic.
Yeah.
This is about a boy and his dog and other little friends and stuff that just have psychic powers, and they fight aliens and zombies, and it's just weird. It's so weird and quirky. You've never played another game like it, and I think that's one of the most special things about it. Like, you play every other game, and there are other games that are similar to it in some way. That doesn't mean other games aren't unique, but they all have similarities to other games. Earthbound, yes, of course, there's some things that's taken from other games, but the overall feel of it it's not really too similar to anything else out there aside from other games from the Mother series. And I just think it's really special, and I can't wait to play it on SNES Classic again, and I hope they remake Mother 3, but I'll talk about that at another day.
Right.
Yeah.
Gosh, the never-ending Mother 3 rumors.
Yeah, I know, it's weird. I'm working on a video on it now, but we'll just pay attention to my channel. The video should be coming out Tuesday afternoon about that. So, you ready for the next game?
Well, my next one is Banjo-Kazooie, because that game is freaking amazing. I played that game all the time. That game, I don't know, my childhood is like, I played all these games, but I never finished them for some reason. I guess I just never could. I just sucked at video games so much. But I played that game so much. I loved that game. I loved all the different like powers you could get. You could like turn to an ant. I forgot, Mumbo Jumbo, I think is his name.
Right.
Who turns you into different things. That was so cool. I remember playing that, and I could turn to an ant, and I could climb into the ant hill, and it was so amazing. It was so weird and like different, and I loved it. The game was absolutely amazing. And the dynamics of having the bird and the Banjo and Kazooie was really cool, and I think it let you do a lot of moves that you couldn't do in some of the other games, some of the other platformers, and so I feel like it was very unique, and it had a very unique style that Rare needs to like wake up and start doing again, please.
They're not going to.
Why, Microsoft?
I'm sorry,
they're
it's
not.
Happen.
Microsoft told them. They just murdered.
No, but I mean, if you want the Rare again, the hope is that Playtonics accomplishes that. And Yooka-Laylee just came out on the PlayStation 4, PC, and Xbox, and it bombed. It did not do nearly as well as people expected and hoped for. However, the game was rushed out, and the main version was always meant to be on the Wii U. But of course, because the Wii U bombed, they moved over everything to the Switch, and apparently there are reports saying that listened to all the critiques, and they're really trying to make sure that the Switch version of Yooka-Laylee is as good as it can be. So I haven't played the Yooka-Laylee yet, and I'm hoping that the Switch version, I think it's still supposed to come out this year, comes out and is the best version by a long shot. And hopefully it measures up to some of the old Rare games like Banjo-Kazooie. So I personally actually never played. Well, I played it, but I never played it I didn't play it that much. But there is a game from Rare that is pretty similar that is on the list that I'm going to talk about. And that is Donkey Kong 64. Now, like I said before, Donkey Kong 64 is not loved by everyone. And like I said, these top 5 isn't necessarily the top 5 best games of retro ever. That's not at all. These are just top 5 games that I really like that are retro games. And the one I'm talking about now is Donkey Kong 64. So, Donkey Kong 64 to me is really, really special. It has that, that Rare feel. It's kind of quirky and funny. Like Earthbound's kind of quirky and funny, but it has a little bit of mystery to it. Donkey Kong's more magical. It feels magical. And, exploring the world of Donkey Kong 64, that giant island, and going around and going to these different worlds and finding these really weird, funny characters, it was just really, really special. And, there was this section where you could play actual retro games in Donkey Kong 64. Funny, because now we consider Donkey Kong 64 a retro game. Like, there was the Jetpack game, and then, of course, the original Donkey Kong. And that was really fun. It's kind of weird just to see that there. But also just going to the different bosses and exploring them and fighting them, which is really special to me. And something that was just kind of weird for me, right? Because being a kid that grew up in the 90s, not having internet, things like that, those weren't really things back then. Like, you would get magazines. That's how you learned about games. You would learn about them through gaming magazines. And I remember I had a gaming magazine that talked about, like, tips and stuff for Donkey Kong 64. And it only covered, like, 2 worlds. But it was just really cool to look at that and just try to get as much as I could. And I remember the whole, like, desert area with the pyramids, and you fight that little, like, mosquito dragon. And it was interesting. And then you can get... And the part I'm talking about in particular is with Diddy Kong, and you would be, like, wearing jetpacks. You would fly around shooting peanuts. And it's just kind of weird. You're shooting peanuts. Like, like, everyone had guns, and their guns would be shooting different kinds of nuts, which is hilarious. And the grenades were oranges. And, of course, like, the whole Donkey Kong, like, the DK rap. DK Donkey Kong. Like, that was just... I thought it was amazing. And it's just, like, that old sort of 90s style kind of game. It has rap music. It's just really funky and cool. And I still love playing that game to this day. It's really fun. It's really special. And there's still so much to talk about that game. Like, you could even, like, transform into Rambi or the Marlin, the fish. Yeah. And you go into these, like, little arenas and try to kill as many enemies or go through as many rings as you can. So there's just lots of little mini games and quirky little things and bosses and just little things that just overall made this really, like, funny, quirky, magical experience for me. And, like, that game, for me personally, has a lot of value. The nostalgia for it is really strong, and I think it's a special game. And I hope they remake. I want another 3D Donkey Kong someday. Maybe that's what Retro's working on, since we know that they're not making Metroid Prime 4. That'd be cool.
It'd be really good. Donkey Kong 64 was actually my next one. So I loved that game. That was my first Donkey Kong game ever. I didn't really know about Donkey Kong Country at the time, so I was just like, oh, that voice crack. Wow. I was just like, oh, this is Donkey Kong. This is what Donkey Kong should be. And I loved that game. I don't understand. I didn't know till much later that there's people who, like, hate that game. I love that game. I don't understand. Like, get over it, guys. That game is amazing. Well, there's nothing you can say that will make me think that it's not amazing.
People dislike it. I don't know. When I played it, I loved it. I could imagine that maybe camera control may have been an issue.
Maybe. Well, it's the N64, so...
Actually, I don't know. Mudkips, I think Sean was saying that it's a slow-paced game. Maybe that's what it is.
I didn't think it was that slow.
I don't know. When I played it, I loved it.
There's, like, too many collectibles or something.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I looked into it earlier. It reminded me, that there's a lot of collectibles, and I think it's, like, almost impossible to get all of them.
Yeah. I think you have to get, like, almost all the collectibles to be the final boss or something, I've been told. I don't know, because I didn't actually beat it myself. I got very close to beating that game. I played it a lot. I got very close to beating that game, but I never actually beat it all the way because I got stuck on some part and I never could beat it. But that game is amazing. Everything about that game. I love the amount of characters. Why are they not bringing back Lanky Kong for anything?
I don't know. Lanky Kong was so crazy. That's a whole other dynamic to talk about.
He needs to be in ARMS as DLC.
His stretchy, he could be ARMS. Oh my god, that's a crazy idea that could totally work out. Yeah, Cranky Kong.
So cool.
Not Cranky Kong. Cranky Kong's interesting, but he's not used. Well, you can see him in the game.
I always loved his potions and stuff.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? Since we're talking about that, kind of reminds me of what we may see in Mario Odyssey, because you know, in Mario Odyssey, we have Pauline from the original Donkey Kong, and we have all the girders, and all the different names reference like tiny, like not tiny, but like a lot of the Donkey Kong characters, some of which you see in Donkey Kong 64. Yeah, so I wonder if I think we'll probably see Donkey Kong, but will it be the Donkey Kong that we know and love today, or will it be the Donkey Kong that was from the original Donkey Kong, which I believe is supposed to be Cranky Kong? Or it might be the one before him, but it's just kind of interesting how that all works. I wonder who we'll actually see. But regardless, I hope they make a new Donkey Kong in the vein of Donkey Kong 64. Of course, maybe a little more faster pace, control the collectibles a little bit better, and have good camera control. But of course, those things probably come with the modern day era. You see how Nintendo does platforming games with Mario Odyssey. You can tell they know how to do a better job than the Crash team and the Ukulele team. So
if they come out next E3, 3D Donkey Kong, I'll be so happy.
I think I'll be happy just seeing Pokemon and Metroid Prime 4.
I'm just saying, if Donkey Kong, I'd be like...
I don't know. There's another game that I think I would like Retro to be making. A remake of Donkey Kong or reviving a 3D Donkey Kong would be cool. But I mentioned it earlier, I think there might be a possibility of Mother 3. But to see that, you'll have to watch my theory video / report video coming out on Tuesday. Anyways, always plug. Anyways, are you ready for your next game?
I guess since you took Donkey Kong 64, that was my last one. I'll go into my backlog. Luckily, I kept some honorable mentions, and I'll say 007 GoldenEye.
Oh,
I loved that game. The game was so good. For the longest time, I played that game when I was younger, and then we got rid of it. I don't forget why. I think it broke or something. And I could never remember what that game was, and all of a sudden I saw some people talking about GoldenEye, 007 GoldenEye. I was like, that's the game I remember playing all the time. I loved that game. The game was absolutely incredible. I loved the multiplayer. I loved the single player. Everything about that game was amazing. There was nothing like... It was one of my first shooters ever, and it was just incredible. Like, I played that game before I ever played Halo and stuff, so... Of course, since it came out way earlier, but...
Yeah.
That was, like, my introduction to first... I think it's a first-person... Yeah, first-person shooters.
Yeah.
And so I thought that game was absolutely incredible.
So before I follow up with you and give you my thoughts on that, just since we're getting a little bit close to the end, so guys, if for everyone watching, why don't you go ahead and post if you have any questions about anything SNE Classic, Metroid Prime 4, Earthbound, or anything Nintendo related at all, but hopefully at least somewhat related to the discussion, post it in the comments and we'll get to it at the end of the discussion so we can go over it. I know I haven't said hi to everyone because I'm focusing on talking about all this stuff. So, but just, you know, if you have any questions, post them and we'll talk about them at the end of the show. So, yeah, as you were saying about GoldenEye, I think, yeah, I mean, that's a great game to have on your list. I mean, that is an amazing game. It was a game that changed a lot because that was, like, I guess it set the, you know, the tone for first-person shooters to come all after that. I mean, Halo was amazing, and I think Halo really took it to a whole other level, right? But that never would have happened if GoldenEye didn't come first. Split-screen multiplayer on the N64 just revolutionized shooters. It really did, and it's a special game. I really enjoyed it. It's not in my top 5, right? But a lot of it has to do with the fact that I didn't play GoldenEye as much as other people back in the day because I didn't own it. But I still played it, and I do enjoy it a lot, and I love split-screen shooters. I wish they would come back. Like, I understand it's kind of annoying now to play on a split screen, right? But back in the day, no one cared, and I wish we would go back to not caring. I love shooting games locally. It's just awesome.
If we could play split screen, 4-player split screen on our tiny CRT televisions, we can play split screen on our big screen,
our big screen
40, 50 inch.
Yeah, I know, right? Screen we should be able to, but we're so spoiled now.
We're all like, we all have to have our own 60-inch 4K TV.
I mean, everyone's focusing on online now. Like, even Splatoon's like that. I wish there was split-screen multiplayer on Splatoon. Like, you could just do, like, 1v1. That sucks. I want to do 4 players, like, fighting each other.
In Halo 5, too. No multiplayer in Halo 5 at all. I was like, what is this crap?
So lame.
I always played Halo multiplayer. It was like the biggest draw for Halo.
I was 4. I didn't play Halo 5. I didn't know they took out the split screen.
You don't need to. It sucks.
That sucks.
Halo 5's not good.
Yeah. I like split screen co-op as well, Super Joe Bro. Like, it's awesome. But I really feel like they should bring back more split screen games. Like, yeah, the presentation's a little awkward, but you can kind of handle it. It can, if we were, like you said, Brandon, like if we were able to do it back in the old days on these older screens with lower resolutions, why can't we do it today with bigger televisions overall and higher resolutions? You know what I mean? Like, I guess part of the thing is that since there's a much higher focus on online gaming now, a lot of people feel like you don't need to do that, and it's more to develop and work on, especially because when you do for like split screen, it's, I said do funny. Anyways, like when you do that, when developers make split screen games, it's a lot more demanding on the system. So frame rate's harder to do, resolution's harder to do. So there's a lot more to program. It requires more effort. And I guess the thing is, back in the day with the N64, that was like one of the big innovations of the N64. Part of it was 3D gaming, but another of it was actual 4 players. Like N64, I think was like one of the first consoles. Well, there are older systems that did it, but in terms of like that era, to have 4 like actual controller docks without an expansion was weird. And like a lot of their games were really based on having 4 players playing at once, and that sort of trended into like the early 21st century, which is why we still saw a lot of 4-player split screen games on the GameCube, Xbox, and not really PS2. You had to like get the whole multi-tap thing, but and it's died off after that during the HD era as we started focusing more and more on online gaming, and it just got harder and harder to, because we all care about performance now, and making quality split screen multiplayer games is not easy. So I mean, even with Mario Kart 8, it doesn't actually run 60 FPS with 4 players, which sucks, I guess. But I'm still happy. I would prefer 30 frames per second if it's still split screen. As long as it's 60 frames during single player, it's fine with me. So
I really wish they just lowered it to 720p and done 60 frames. Like, keep it 1080 when you're doing 1 and 2, but if you're gonna do 3 and 4, just lower it to 720p so we can have 60 frames.
That's an option, or 540p. You know,
no,
not 540p.
No.
Yeah, not really.
Gosh.
Oh, well, I mean, if you're not... Well, here's the thing, right? Like, if you had to choose between 540p split screen versus no split screen, I mean, what would you pick?
I'd take 540p.
Right, at least you're going to get it, right? If it comes without, you know, if it means you're not going to get it at all, then of course you're going to want it. But I think a lot of developers care a lot about presentation now. So if it's really hard to get something to run really well, they're not going to even bother with it, especially when more people seem to care more about online gaming nowadays. So,
because as soon as they say it's 540p and split screen, they'll be like, "This is the worst console. This one game has split screen at a lower resolution. The console sucks. Screw Nintendo." I mean, like, it's the most ridiculous thing ever. It's like, it could run perfectly fine, one to 2 players at 1080p 60, but no, if it runs, you know, at 4 players, anything less than, you know, perfect, it's like the worst game and it's trash. It's like, what?
You know what's interesting about that is that whenever I go back and play N64 games, right, I enjoy them. Yeah, I get frustrated a lot because camera control is annoying, and just like the analog pad, like the actual joystick doesn't function as well as I would like it to. But I still have a lot of fun with them, and I still can get fully immersed in them, despite the fact that the resolution is crap, and that there's not that many polygons, that the worlds aren't that large. But still, sometimes the worlds still feel large enough, like a Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, and I can still get immersed, right? And that's on the N64, right? I mean, you can have the power of that with, like, you know, like this much space. Like, it's not hard to do. So, gameplay is more important. I think most people recognize that, but there is a huge focus on specs and running things at the highest frames, highest resolutions. So I kind of understand it, but I just feel like it didn't come at the expense of some features sometimes, like split screen. But of course, like I said, it has more to do with online gaming focus. But you know, the Switch, they're doing, I feel like, a good job with bringing a lot of multiplayer games. So hopefully Splatoon 2 has split screen, but I doubt it. I hope, though. So, yes, the poop. But, so, we were just talking about, what were we even talking about? Kind of got a little sidebar there.
GoldenEye.
GoldenEye. Okay. So, is that your 3rd or 4th game? I think that was your 4th.
That was my 5th.
That was your 5th? So, I brought up F-Zero, I brought up Earthbound, I brought up Donkey Kong 64, And
and I went
and I
first,
brought up
so-
Kid Icarus. Right. So one more game. What's one more game I should talk about that I think is really special that a lot of people haven't really fully enjoyed? That is just a great, amazing retro game. There's a few of them, but one in particular. Which one should I talk about? Which one should I talk about? I don't even know which one I should pick. Someone tell me one. I should have had a list. There's tons I could pick from. I just don't know which one I should pick from. And it's... I guess... You know what? Okay, I'll pick one. So I'm going to talk about Turok.
Ooh.
So another first-person shooter. And that game was off the chain because you literally could fight dinosaurs and you would have space weapons even though you were like an Indian fighting in the wilderness, and it was all misty and scary and cool. And you know, that game was one game I played as a kid, and it was rated mature. I shouldn't have been playing it as a kid, but I was. And there was a lot of really, really scary moments for me. And it there was these crazy golems that would just bust out of walls and caves, and it was just kind of crazy. Now a lot of that I kind of felt similar with Metroid Prime, and I just beat Metroid Prime tonight. And why this is all interesting is because the team that used to develop Turok, I think at the time was called Entertainment Iguana or something like that. I forget the exact name, but that team went on to an iguana was their mascot. That team eventually was adapted into Retro Studios, and they eventually made Metroid Prime. And I remember when I used to show my dad Metroid Prime, he's like, "Oh, it looks a lot like Turok." There's a reason for that, because these are the same guys that made Turok. And back on the SNES, that was kind of we didn't get any Metroid games, but we got Turok games. So it's kind of interesting. I feel like Turok was kind of the Metroid of that era, even though it's completely different. Don't get me wrong, but you still had this shooting element, this spooky, atmospheric, scary element to it, and there was still a futuristic sense to it as well in these exotic worlds. Of course, it's more about dinosaurs and stuff, which is really awesome. And I'm kind of sad to say that nowadays Turok is not really held in as high of regard. It's no longer on Nintendo systems, which sucks as well. But they never really make any good games anymore, which is why we don't see them as much. But it would be really awesome to see a game like that made in this era, where it was actually a quality shooting game that had giant dinosaurs they had to deal with. And that concept doesn't seem that novel, but it hasn't been executed well since the 90s. So it's really unfortunate, but at that time, that game was just so special to me, so scary, so badass, and with dinosaurs running about and having to fight them, and it was a super epic game, and to see it happen on N64 on that limited hardware was really cool. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've never played Turok, but I've seen it, and it looks amazing. I can totally see the similarities to Metroid Prime. Yeah, I need to play. There's so many games I need to play. Retro games, but yeah, I never played Turok.
And which is why the SNES Classic is so special, because there's tons of games that I'm going to get to fully enjoy. And I talked about it earlier in the podcast, but if you're just coming in now, I'll just bring over a few. I haven't gotten to play Castlevania, Secret of Mana, Final Fantasy III. I didn't get to finish Earthbound. Those are games that I can't wait to fully experience on the SNES Classic this year. Okay. Let's talk about Star Fox. So we know Star Fox is coming. Star Fox 2 is coming on the SNES Classic. So some people have brought up, this is I guess the final subject for the night, and I just bring those randomly. Unless there's anything in particular you want to bring up about the other retro games that we were talking about earlier, Brandon.
Not really.
Okay. So some people seem to think that maybe Star Fox 2 is a sign that the Star Fox franchise isn't going on a hiatus, because Star Fox Zero kind of bombed. And I think with good reason. The Star Fox 2, Star Fox Zero, it didn't focus on normal gameplay. You had to use the gamepad, and a lot of people didn't like that. I dealt with it, and I still enjoyed it, but going back to it is still kind of annoying. I don't like using my gamepad anymore. It's just a mess. If I could just use a normal controller, it would work fine. I was trying to play Pikmin 3 the other day, I was like, I really don't want to use the gamepad, but they forced me to use it. I think that's a problem. And now that Nintendo's making games, they focus on if they have motion controls or something like that, they still have the option to use a normal controller. And I think that's just the way to go now, because a lot of times people just want to relax, sit down, and play a game normally. Which is why I think VR won't always work, because sometimes people just want to sit down and relax. They don't want to be in this whole world and feel like they're on an edge. That's fun, but you don't want to do it all the time. So I don't know if the resurgence of Star Fox with Star Fox 2 is actually happening. I think it might just be Nintendo, throwing us a bone with Star Fox 2. But we did just get Star Fox Zero last year. We're getting Star Fox 2 now. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I think Nintendo understands that the reason Star Fox Zero didn't sell wasn't because Star Fox doesn't sell. It was because Star Fox Zero sucked. You know?
Yeah.
And I mean, it came out on the Wii U. It was very clearly a very low budget game. Like, the graphics sucked. Yeah. It was a short game. There wasn't that much content in it. I think if you look at it, it's very obvious they didn't put that much money into it. So, my opinion, I don't think they ever expected it to do that well. I think they were just doing it to service Wii U fans. You know, they didn't put too much investment into it. Just put enough to say, hey, we're still making games for Wii U because we bought this thing, you know. But I think ultimately the last year and a half or so on the Wii U was all about just releasing things, which is obviously Twilight Princess HD and things like that, just to tide people over to get to the Switch era. So, yeah. Guys, I guess those are basically my thoughts. Let me check the chat. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? I think this is basically it. We've kind of run full course more than we anticipated with this discussion. Is there anything else in particular, Brandon, you want to talk about? Maybe going back to Star Fox and it coming back. I realized kind of like just didn't even let you talk there. Sorry.
I have a couple of thoughts about Star Fox. I think definitely I want another Star Fox, not a Star Fox Zero situation, obviously. Right. I think the problem with Star Fox Zero was not necessarily, for me, not necessarily that they reused a lot of stuff, although that was a big issue. It was just the way they reused it was not at all
like the third
impressive at all.
Remake of Star Fox Zero. Of Star Fox, the original Star Fox. It's just like another retelling of the same story.
Yeah. I don't even think that was my issue, because I had only played, I think the only Star Fox I really played was Star Fox 64, and I love that game. Yeah. And so to see it kind of remade was really cool for me. I understand a lot of people have played the other ones, so it's not as cool for them. But for me, it was really cool. But it was so bad. The controls, I kind of got used to them, but they were so bad. I remember some of the bosses I absolutely hated to fight. I remember the boss in the snow level, like the big crab one, I think. That one sucked. I hate that. There was the final boss. I hated the final boss. I felt like it was really confusing what you were supposed to do.
I really liked the mechanical bird. We are talking about Zero,
That one was good.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was still kind of frustrating. But I loved the design of it. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the thing
controls
is that
were pretty The graphics sucked.
Yeah, they did suck. Miyamoto was really trying to prove that the gamepad was a good idea. And I think ultimately, as hard as he tried, he was wrong. And that's unfortunate. Like, I did like the concept of the gamepad initially, but it just wouldn't work as well in practice over a time. Like, it is interesting, but it isn't something that I think is... Obviously, we moved away from it for a reason, right? But it doesn't look like...
It's not good for fast-paced games. It just isn't. It's good for, like, maps and Zelda and stuff.
I guess.
Like, that's
Although I have no problem playing Zelda on the Switch where I don't have to look at the map constantly. I use it as a way to pause and look at the map that way. Now, I
actually find that to be really annoying. Really? Like, I guess I was spoiled by playing Wind Waker HD, but that game was, like, way better in my opinion with the map. So, I
don't feel like it really makes it better or worse personally. In fact, it's almost like a preference thing, because when you did the map thing, when you use the map in Wind Waker HD, you could look at it in real time, which is cool, but at the same time you could get hit in real time. So yes, it's like another dynamic that can make things more challenging, but it also just kind of weird and frustrating and not entirely useful. Like, there are other ways to make the game harder. I mean, Breath of the Wild on the Switch, you don't look at things the map in real time, and it's still considered the hardest Zelda game since, like, the original or Zelda 2. So, if that's your only reason for wanting, like, a map in real time, then it's not a good reason, because Breath of the Wild is a perfect example of a game that's so much harder that doesn't do that necessarily. So, I don't know, but like you said, you prefer it that way.
It's not because it made it harder. It's just, it was way more convenient for me, because when I played the original Wind Waker, I was constantly pausing, make sure I was going in the right direction. And I just felt like it was much easier just to look down. I feel like I spend literal hours just pausing, looking at the map in that game, when I could just be sailing and looking. But I guess that's kind of Wind Waker's thing. You kind of are sailing and doing not much for some time. So, yeah. Overall, I think the gamepad kind of didn't really work out. But there was some very, very, very few and far between times where I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this gamepad's pretty nice.
So I want to refer to some of the comments here. Anyways, thanks for the compliment, Super Joe Bro. Yeah, I hope to do these discussions every Sunday for a while. But in terms of adventures, he's asking about Star Fox Adventures, since we're still talking about Star Fox, sort of. I really love that game. I think it's really special. I think it gets too much flack because, yeah, people wanted like a normal Star Fox and it's kind of Zelda-esque. But it was really cool. Like, it had those Zelda sort of, like, it had like that realistic flowy grass. It was just cool to run around these worlds and see Dinosaur Planet. Yeah. I think it's a really good game, and it's kind of a shame because I think that was the final Rare game that was on a Nintendo system. It was really good too. Like that was their final. That may have been their final really good game, and I think it's really special. The thing is weird though is that the space segments are few and far between, so I can understand how some people feel like it's not a true Star Fox game. So if they were ever to go back to a Star Fox Adventure sort of thing, I'd be okay with it, but just hopefully the next time they have a better way to incorporate more of the standard Star Fox flying, fighting segments in it. It had it, but I think it needs more of it. But
I feel like the concept, I played that game, I do not like it. Well, I don't dislike it, I just don't love it. I feel like the concept is really good. The execution was pretty poor on some parts. I feel like the game was kind of way too confusing on some segments. I thought some parts were hard. I might just been because I was younger.
Yeah,
and I thought the game was ridiculous.
That has a lot to do with it, usually for me.
Confusing. Maybe if I went back and played it, I'd like it. But I felt like some parts just didn't feel like they flowed very well, and some parts I didn't like. I don't know. That game is. I'm so torn on that game. I think if they remake, like if they do another one, and they add some more stuff, I think they should add more shooting mechanics. I think would be fun. Just I could see myself running around as Star Fox, just like blasting things. I feel like that'd be really fun.
Yeah.
And I liked the staff though. Just beating things with the staff felt really nice.
Yeah, it did. It was so epic, and like he was so acrobatic, and he was just really his cool combos. Like, yeah, I mean, you know, I think a lot of us here in the discussion loved Star Fox Adventures, and I think we're all in agreement that they could smooth a few things out if they were ever to make a remake, a new one. But will they? And actually, here's an interesting thing. Interesting thought just to end the discussion because, we're running a little on time. But just hear me out. So we know this year for Switch is stacked with games. We're getting Xenoblade, we got Zelda, we're getting Splatoon, we're getting ARMS. We have a few remakes already with remastered ports with Mario Kart and such. We got ARMS. We're getting Mario Odyssey. This is a really good year. And then next year it's Fire Emblem slated for the year. So is Yoshi. So is Kirby. And there's rumors about Animal Crossing. There's a lot more rumors about Smash Brothers. And there's a lot of speculation and some good reason to think that both a real mainline Pokemon game and Metroid Prime 4 are coming out next year. I know some people get a little bent out of shape about talking about those games coming out in 2018, but they may. And if they do...
I think they really could.
Right, I do as well. But just hypothetically speaking, even if you don't believe, just hear me out. If those games all come out in 2018, then by that point, Nintendo will have already had a mainline game come out for pretty much all their well-used, more recent IP. Oh, Pikmin 4 is also in that conversation for 2018, for the record. So if all the games come out, what does Nintendo come out with in 2019? Right? And that brings me to my point. I think that it's because Nintendo has combined their gaming divisions and they're releasing a lot more games now on one platform because the 3DS is dying out. It's just going to be all the Switch eventually. So there's going to be a lot more games coming. So what does that mean? They're going to run through their IP faster rather than creating 2 Mario Karts, 2 Smash Bros., 2 Zelda games, 2 Mario games. They're just going to focus on having 1 IP per year probably. So what do they come out with that? Because by 2019, as I've been saying, I'm kind of like a roundabout fashion, they will have used most of that IP already on the Switch. So will they start digging deeper into that treasure trove of other IP, as we've been talking about retro games this entire discussion? Will they start using things like Mother 3? Will they start using things like Kid Icarus? Maybe they'll use Star Fox Adventures. These are games that could be remade and brought to the modern era. Then they would almost be like new IP, but they would still have that fan base because they're retro games, but they function as new IP. It's because they have to be entirely remade to run in this era. So I think it's an interest. Obviously I'm excited about this year and next year, but I'm even more curious about 2019 because we don't know what kind of lineup Nintendo will have. But based off everything they're saying, based off everything they're doing, I expect them to still maintain this this kind of pattern of having at least one big game coming out every 2 months and maybe every month. So I mean, I'm expecting like somewhere between 8 and 10 significant games coming out from Nintendo every month. Oh, well, 9 to 10 games every year. So there's only a few like little months that are missing. So I don't know. 2019 is gonna be really interesting to me. How do you feel about that, Brandon?
Yeah, I think 2019 is gonna be the year of remakes, remasters, and just digging down to IPs they have like left in the dust for so long. I feel like we could see F-Zero, we could see Skyward Sword HD, we could see a Star Fox game, we could see a Donkey Kong, maybe a 3D Donkey Kong game.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of games that could come back. Yeah.
I would not be surprised if Sakurai was working, or will be working, on a new Kid Icarus game for the Switch.
Yeah,
that'd be really awesome.
Supposedly he's not working on Smash Brothers. Like, if they don't need to, if they use pretty much most of the assets from Smash 4 and just add more characters and improve a few little things, that could be the Smash for the next 5 years.
It'd just be an oversight position.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would just be it'd probably just be in like an oversight position, not doing much. Just like making sure
everything's fine, right? While he works on something else, which could be, like you said, a Kid Icarus game that I've been hoping for. It's actually interesting. I didn't plan on talking about this for the record, guys. Like, even though we've been talking about retro games and talking about other games we like to see in this era, like Donkey Kong, Kid Icarus, and such, and Earthbound, I didn't actually mean to make the argument that Nintendo will have run through all of their IP by 2019, and hence being more encouraged to reuse a lot of their older IP. But it might happen, and that's really cool. So, yeah. Anyways, I think we're pretty much at the end of the discussion. Is there anything you want to bring up, Brandon? Do you want to talk more about this in particular? And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask.
We could. I feel like we could talk about
this for hours.
2019 games for like a million years.
Maybe we should revisit this discussion next week, because there is a lot to talk about.
That's what I'm thinking.
There is a lot to talk about.
This should be a topic for next week.
Okay. So, guys, I think we've reached, I guess, the necessary conclusion for this discussion, because it is running a little long. It's getting a little late. I have a headache. But I did enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I noticed a lot more people were watching on Twitter this time. I was streaming Metroid Prime earlier for like 3.5 hours, and no one came. And I left it with the same Metroid Prime title for the record, so the analytics work exactly the same, and no one came on Twitter to watch Metroid Prime. But the moment I started having a random discussion on Twitch, people started coming around, which is weird. It's funny how that works. But anyways, thanks for coming on Twitch. Thanks for coming on YouTube. Yeah, I am dual streaming. I like this kind of strategy. I think it works. But let me know what you guys think. And, if you have any questions or ideas to talk about in the future, specifically maybe even next week with 2019 games or whatever else happens during the week, put in the comments below. And I will see you guys all really soon. You can say goodbye, Brandon.
Bye.
You're allowed.
Bye.
All right. So, yeah, pretty much that's it, guys. I'm lost, confused as always. Not really, just sometimes. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you all really soon. Bye.
Bye.